Hey basketball lovers, we're back with our 2015-2016 NBA preview series of podcasts. Right now we're going to be covering the Portland Trailblazers.
Obviously a good year for the Trailblazers last year. Finished 51-31. Had that weird incident where they got the 4 seed, kind of knocked the Spurs down, who had a better record, down to the 6 seed. Lost to the Grizzlies though. Wasn't a very competitive series. Basically lost in 5. So over the offseason, they had a number of additions and lost a huge portion of their players. So let's begin. Key additions. Obviously, they acquired Mason Plumlee in the draft day trade for Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. They also picked up Ed Davis, traded basically nothing for Mo Harkless. Got Noah Vonleh and Gerald Henderson in the deal for Nick Batum. Signed Al-Farouq Aminu to a decent-sized contract. They also picked up players Pat Connaughton, Cliff Alexander, and Phil Pressey.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really compare to their losses. And as for their losses, they basically lost almost their entire starting lineup except for Damian Lillard. So they lost Aaron Aflalo, Nicholas Batum, Robin Lopez, of course LaMarcus Aldridge. They also got rid of Steve Blake, Darrell Wright, Wesley Matthews. Again, he was injured for that second half of the year, but they lost him too. They also got rid of Alonzo G and Joel Freeland.
Something to say about their losses. You can even make the argument they lost an entire starting lineup. Because Aflalo's a starting caliber player. Obviously, he didn't have a role when he came over to the Blazers at the start because they had a set lineup. And then when Wes Matthews went down, he got the nod at the 2 guard. But they lost a starting lineup.
Yeah, that could be like a decent team in the East.
Yeah. So let's talk about their starting lineup now after all of the losses and injuries that have been suffered. Point guard, Damian Lillard, fresh off that contract extension. He's going to be the face of this franchise for a while. Shooting guard, should have been Gerald Henderson. Obviously, he went down, and now it's kind of iffy what he's going to be doing. So they're going to give the nod to C.J. McCollum. Al-Farouq Aminu, off his new deal, is going to be starting at small forward. Power forward, I have Myers Leonard slotted to start. Obviously, he's coming off that season. He had a 50-40-90. Did a really good job. Was a decent rim protector. He's kind of better at the 5 for defense. So it remains to be seen if they're going to trot out Leonard or Ed Davis at the starting 4 spot on any given day.
I'd go with Davis.
I think Ed Davis they're going to go with for defense. But Leonard kind of is going to be getting starters minutes even if he comes off the bench. He kind of has been improving vastly over the past couple of years, and they want to give him that burn that he's earned.
It's definitely the defense that he really needs to improve on.
Yeah.
But, overall, he's a stretch 5.
And then center, obviously Mason Plumlee. So, stat for this team.
Yeah, so my stat for this team was the combined points from those starting guys in Aldridge, Batum, Matthews, and Aflalo. So they lost 68.9 points per game with losing those 4 guys. Obviously, this team will not be the same, and that loss of those 4 guys makes them contender to a lottery team, which is a really drastic change over the course of a season. With rebuilding projects, you really see something drastic happen. But for this team, everything happened at once. Really surprising, and I'm really curious to see how Damian Lillard will handle being the number 1 option of this team now. He was almost the number 2 option with Aldridge last season and the past couple of seasons, but this season, he's really going to have to show what he's made of. He's had some good statistical seasons, but he really has been lacking. He's almost became a chucker last season at some points because he was really shooting a lot of threes and he wasn't making a lot of them. So it'll be interesting to see how Lillard acts as a leader for this team.
Yeah, speaking on your point, another big thing to look for is his assists. Obviously, he hasn't been much of a pure point guard. He fits the mold of the Kyrie Irving type now, where you see the point guard will put up a lot of points, not really putting up that many assists, only 5 or 6 assists a game. And that was when he had that all-star lineup around him. Robin Lopez, LaMarcus Aldridge, Wes Matthews, Nick Batum. So when you take all that talent away and so much of the defense is focused on him now, I'm worried about what he's going to be putting up. But moving away from that to my stat, I have points in the paint, not just for them and not just for defense, but both. Last season, they ranked 27th in points scored in the paint. That was with LaMarcus Aldridge and Robin Lopez. You replaced them with Myers Leonard, Ed Davis, Mason Plumlee, Novanle. None of them are real threats. Plumlee obviously can score in the paint, so can Davis, but they're not nearly as effective as Lopez was at it. Lopez is actually a more polished offensive player than a lot of people give him credit for. And I'm not sold on those two kind of anchoring this team in the paint. They're going to have to learn how to score in there. They lost Wes Matthews. They lost Nick Batum. Damian Lillard is going to have a lot more attention on him. Al-Farouq Aminu is not a shooter. They don't have three shooters on this roster. They have Leonard, who did put up great season shooting the three ball, but can he do it in major minutes? Can he do it in a longer quantity of time? Can CJ McCollum finally be consistent? Otherwise, they're going to have to find a way to score in that paint because they lost their three-point shot. As far as defending the paint, they ranked 21st in defending in the paint, so I don't know if these guys are really defensive assets. Robin Lopez, again, was a very good defender, and you replace him with Mason Plumlee, Ed Davis. I don't know. I don't know if these guys can reproduce what Robin Lopez brought to this team.
I don't know if these guys can reproduce. Yeah. But I think even adding Myers Leonard, giving him more minutes. Like you were saying, he's a decent rim protector. I think a lot of the talk with the Blazers is that Myers Leonard is completely confused on defense. And
he's not a good set defender. When you ask him to work in a system, he's lost. When you tell him just stand by the rim, he can be a capable rim defender. So he's fine at a 5 spot. You kind of have to work around him. He's not going to fit into a defensive scheme.
His pick and roll defense wasn't really that great last season.
No, he's not a mobile defender.
And he fouls a lot too.
Yeah. I think when he's just a set defender. He's not a mobile one in any way. If you have him standing there and somebody goes up against him to take a shot, he's going to be able to contest it. But when he's drawn out away from the basket and then has to move to try and get in front of his man, no, he's not going to be able to handle it.
Right.
He's definitely not a 4 defender. With like the smaller 4s that are now being employed, I don't think he can keep up. So, moving on from that, what do you have as this season's big picture for this team?
I mean, like I was mentioning before, like this is kind of sad how quickly this team imploded. They were pretty good in the Western Conference last season and the past couple of seasons. Like it looked like they were really building a good team. They had some injury issues with Matthews, Batum to an extent, even LaMarcus Aldridge. Like he played the rest of the season last year with like a torn ligament in his hand, and he still was extremely productive. But this team now, I guess they're in a quick rebuild or a retool, if you want to call it that. Their big man depth is really good. I feel they have a lot of really long big men. They even made a run at Enes Kanter in the offseason. I think that's their strongest point. But aside from that, like they're in the Western Conference and they're merely okay. So I don't think they're going to be going anywhere. Like I was mentioning before, Damian Lillard, him being a leader is going to be really interesting to see. And I'm also looking at the development of CJ McCollum. Last season off the bench, he was really good. I think a lot of people are mentioning him now as almost like a dark horse candidate for the 6th man of the year. So this year's more focused on seeing with those big men, Plumlee, Leonard, Davis, Al-Farouq Aminu, Cliff Alexander, even Noah Vonleh, just trying to see which one works out, which one they want to stick with and run with, and which one develops into a better player. So for me, my expectations really aren't that high for them. I'm just hoping to see some development out of them.
This is tough because I'm actually a big Portland fan. I really like Lillard. I loved the Aldridge teams, even when they weren't really getting to the postseason. They entered full rebuild mode, like you said, but it was weird in how it happened. I don't know if you heard about this, but there was talks about how they were trying to keep LaMarcus Aldridge by saying like, "Oh, we're gonna get something over this off season that you'll like. It's gonna be fine. Don't you worry. Like we're gonna make a draft pick that's gonna help us move forward." And apparently they were doing some like damage. Like they were moving pretty well, and then They traded for Vonleh.
Plum Dog.
Well, no, they traded for Vonleh.
Right.
And Plumlee, which don't make any sense. Like, yeah, you needed that Robin Lopez protection in case, but Vonleh, what were you thinking drafting a guy who, best case scenario, if you convince LaMarcus to stay, he's a bench player. And you traded away Batum, who was a very versatile player for your team. He obviously had a down year last year, so it remains to be seen if that's going to be a trend of his, or maybe he picks his play back up. But I don't know what went through management's head at that point. And then obviously LaMarcus left, so they just went complete rebuild, picked up all these different guys. But that was an odd move. Lillard needs to develop those leadership skills. Like you were talking about, he's been a clutch player. He's shown in some high-pressure moments that he can come through, but it can't be only when the clock's about to hit 0. He can't just deliver the game-winning shot. He has to put his team in a position, or learn to put his team in a position where they don't need to take that last shot.
He needs to step up defensively, too.
Yeah, he needs to improve defensively. He's taken plays off. He has all the tools necessary to be a great defender. He's a little behind athletically. He's not as athletic as some of the other point guards. He makes up for it kind of in his shooting stroke. He's still really quick, you know. I wouldn't say he's anywhere near the bottom half of that point guard depth, but, you know, he's not up to par with some of the others like Westbrook or the like that. But he has the tools necessary to become at least a league average defender, which he has not been.
Yeah.
Al-Farouq Aminu, I know we talked about this when they made the signing. That was an odd pickup for me. They paid a lot of money to Al-Farouq Aminu.
I don't really have a problem with it.
I don't know. I don't have a problem. He's a great energy player. He rebounds the ball like a big. But I don't know how I like his fit at a 3 spot. Like, he's a good defender. He's actually a very good defender, which this team did need. But the lack of shooting and the lack of improvement in shooting over the past 4 years or so, I don't know. I don't think you should be spending as much on him.
I mean, I don't think the contract was as big in comparison to other contracts. It was for 4 years, $30 million, so that's about $7.5 million per year.
I don't know. I guess I'm thinking in an old salary cap terms, but I just feel like $7.5 million for Al-Farouq Aminu is a bit. I don't think he's proven to be like that big of a contract, even though that is by no means a huge contract. It's not near the size of what Lillard signed, so it's not like they're paying him superstar money. I'm just saying, I don't know. I feel like there was better places they could have tried to invest that money. But then again, the argument comes in, no max-level star or all-star, because there weren't really max-level stars on the free agent pool this year. They were all just all-star talents.
I think that rationale for the signing is he's still very young at 25 years old. And compared to like someone like a Jay Crowder, he got a similar contract to Jay Crowder.
They're very similar players.
Like, they're very similar. Yeah. And like, would you rather pay Al-Farouq $7.5 or Tristan Thompson $16?
No, we'll stop that. Stop that.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go down that road. But no, I'm not saying I'm disgusted by this contract. I'm just saying it was a head scratcher to me. Especially for a team that really liked spacing. I didn't see Aminu fitting there. Again, I like him in terms of if you have Henderson in him, people kind of knock Henderson as a defensive player, but he was a plus for Charlotte the past couple of years. I don't think last year he was, but the years prior to that, he was a decent defensive player. And I think you're going to need that on this roster. I don't know. The signing came out of left field to me, I thought. Plumlee also, I didn't understand picking up Plumlee when you had Myers Leonard to fill that spot.
For this team, like, acquiring so many big guys is really puzzling. Because
they're rebuilding in a very odd way. I don't know. It was rushed, though. Like we said before, it was a very quick spark in the pan kind of rebuild. And I guess they're hoping that all these young assets that they acquired, Ed Davis is one of the older players on this roster, and he's not all that old.
Even them making a run at Enes Kanter, that might have been a troll move by them just to get the Thunder to match.
Yeah.
But, that was really puzzling. They could have had a starting lineup purely on guys 6'9" and taller.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be a down year in Portland, obviously. I think I don't think they can even be in contention for a playoff spot. He's knocking on wood that they don't make me look silly. But unless we see a huge superstar performance from Damian Lillard, which he could, I think he could very well lead the league in points per game. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to carry this team into an 8 spot. I don't really think they have the talent or depth necessary. You know, they have a bunch of mysteries on their roster, and Vonleh and Harkless, players that haven't found rotation minutes for whatever reason. You know, they performed well. Vonleh was a lottery pick, and when he was healthy in Charlotte, Steve Clifford didn't want to give him burn. Mo Harkless played really well his rookie year. Still, he just fell out of the rotation for whatever reason in Orlando. Plumlee was playing extremely well towards the start of the season, and then he just got relegated to the bench and never moved off it. There's a lot of question marks on this roster. So they can maybe, once you shed light on them, they become gems, you know, steals sort of. I don't know the likelihood of that, though. I'm going to place it at a very low probability.
Yeah, I guess moving on to our excitement ratings, what do you have them and how exciting this team is, especially considering how different this team is compared to the previous years with this Portland squad?
They were originally for me a 3. I moved them up to a 4.5, simply because of Lillard's clutch skills. You know, just watching him, if they get a chance to be close in a game and they can get the ball to him, that's always going to be an exciting moment to see. Whether he makes it or misses it, there's always that just awe moment where you take a breath and wait. He's going to put huge volume numbers, which is going to be a lot of fun. The efficiency of Myers Leonard, maybe like the continuation of that growth we saw, maybe to watch Vonleh, Harkless, any of these guys, maybe CJ McCollum emerge. There's a lot to like and look forward to, but at the same time, there's also a very big downside of they're going to suck. And their players aren't young enough to warrant that development boost that I've been giving some other teams. You know, they're not rookies. They're all been in the league for at least a year.
Right. My excitement scale for them was a 4.0. I'm not as big of a Damian Lillard fan as you. I kind of found him really annoying, like both in the media and as a player, but that's just me. Because there were at times like where he was very selfish with the ball. Like he just chucked it from the 3-point line a lot, and he didn't even shoot it at a great percentage. And that could have like been really annoying to someone like LaMarcus Aldridge, who was the veteran on the team and wasn't getting shots.
Well, yeah, we'll call that what it was. He left because he didn't like the fact that Lillard became the son of the city.
Yeah.
He did get very annoyed about that. There were many reports about him voicing his frustrations over fan favorite Damian Lillard, while he kind of had suffered through everything with that team and didn't get much love.
I mean, just continuing, I think they got a 4.0 from me. I guess I'm a Myers Leonard closet fan, I guess. I thought he was really intriguing last season, because you never really see a guy, how tall is he? 7'1", 7'2"?
Yeah.
Just jack up three-pointers.
I remember the first game he hit a 3-point. I was stunned because it was just nobody guarded him. He did a pick and roll with I forget who it was with. It probably was with
or something.
Yeah, it was with one of the reserves, and the guys just stood in the paint and watched him because he waited for Myers to like come in with the ball, and Myers just shot it. And
like coming in from college, he was rated as a project. He was rated as a guy that was really rough around the edges, but was really athletic, had a great size. But it's intriguing to see how players develop. I wasn't really expecting him as a rookie to be an elite 3-point shooter. I was expecting him to be more of a hustle guy.
Yeah.
That's really intriguing. And Mason Plumlee, the Davis Leonard combination will also be really interesting for me. Watching the Nets a lot last year, seeing Plumlee develop was pretty exciting at times. And it was also really frustrating. The guy really couldn't make a free throw, but defensively, he was a very smart player. He was almost a leader with how vocal he was. But I think the Kevin Garnett trade really shook him. And I'm curious to see if he can get any better, because he might have come into the league an already finished prospect.
Yeah, his Duke days where he showed a lot of what he could do there.
Yeah, like he's already reached his ceiling.
Yeah, just to touch on your Leonard thing, his highest projection was sort of like that Kenneth Faried. Like maybe he'd just get more muscular. He would be like a really big muscle guy in the post. But
I think you have to compare him to a white guy, dude. Come on. You gotta compare him to a white guy.
Dellavedova, but jacked and really tall. I don't like white hustle guys. I don't know a white hustle guy.
Greg Steamsville?
That's barely a hustle guy. He hustles for maybe 10 seconds and then
Chris
he's winded.
Humphries?
It's not a hustle. He doesn't hustle. He's now shooting 3-pointers though. But we'll get that over there. So social media stat. Social media. I don't know. It's not a stat. Stalker.
Yeah. I was gonna talk about my projections for this team, but we could do the social media first. So on the topic of Mason Plumlee, there was an Instagram of him. He made a reverse 3-pointer. It was pretty interesting. I mean, congrats, Mason Plumlee. You're showing some range. Who do you think is the best shooter on this team?
Secretly, CJ McCollum. It's gotta be CJ McCollum or like Myers Leonard. Like it's somebody. I feel like CJ McCollum kind of chokes a little bit up. Not like he can't handle pressure, but just a little bit of nerve comes in and he doesn't swish well. I don't know if Lillard is necessarily a great shooter. I think he has gotten much better through volume attempts.
Shooter.
Yeah, but CJ McCollum is more of a natural shooter. Myers Leonard is a very set shooter. So I think once defense is key on him, he might not be as good. I don't know. I really don't know who on this team would be the best.
Yeah, on
though.
this team, you have a lot of guys that can shoot it
It's
pretty
just
well.
like, yeah.
And then you have guys that can't shoot at all, like Mo Harkless and
Al-Farouq Aminu.
I'm really interested to see Mo Harkless too. Like,
Yeah,
really,
exactly. I'm saying, like, they're all wild cards. Like, I don't...
Yeah.
Mo Harkless was fun with the Magic his rookie year, so I don't know why he didn't get playtime, but I'm really interested to see if he's developed at all.
He's still 22, so
Yeah.
he only averaged 15 minutes a game last season, but he wasn't exactly great.
Yeah, he didn't get enough burn with that young squad, and it was the same thing with Kyle O'Quinn. You know, he showed he was a promising player, and I guess they have too many players. That's why, but it was a shame. Anyway, so I messed up. Moving on to record predictions.
Yeah, I have them probably making the biggest decrease in wins in the league this year. I see them between 25 and 30 wins. I mean, Lillard will definitely try to compete, try to prove everyone why they're wrong and why he's an all-star or something like that, because that seems like Lillard's thing, proving people wrong, like whining to get into the all-star game, whining to get into...
Well, no, that all-star game was ridiculous. We all know that.
Yeah. Like, Lillard will try to compete with this team, but I don't think they have the personnel to really win anything. They're going to have a lot of struggles, especially defensively with so many big men, and even on offense, too, with spacing being an issue. I think the best thing is that, like, GM Neil O'Shea and Terry Stotts, they know what they're dealing with. They know that this is a team that's in transition. So hopefully it won't be too difficult on them adjusting to not winning as much and drastically, like, losing.
Yeah. I have them at 51 losses.
I was going to say 51 wins?
No, 51 losses.
Yeah.
They're gonna flip the script on their record, and that's best case. I think 31 is a very good prediction for them. Lillard, even if Lillard turns this around, like turns his whole identity around, becomes a defensive player, I don't think you have enough talent on this roster yet. You have a good rotation, but you kind of need more star power. You know, you need somebody in that power forward spot. Rotation of Myers Leonard, Mason Plumlee, and Ed Davis, I don't know if that's going to cut it for you as your front court rotation. I think you need to draft like a star power forward. Or Noah Vonleh also fits into there, I'm sorry. But I think you need, unless one of these guys breaks out, you're going to need somebody to fill up that power forward spot. Small forward, I think you can make do with Al-Farouq Aminu. Shooting guard, CJ McCollum, we haven't seen that much of him. Obviously, he played really well in the playoffs. He kind of had like a breakout party in the playoffs against Memphis. We'll see if that carries over. It seems like it's been going pretty well for him in preseason. We'll see if regular season changes anything. Plumlee, I'm not in love with, but I think he's a solid center. He's definitely a starting caliber. He can get you through a game. But I feel like this team needs another star, and hopefully through draft or free agency or trade or something they can get that second star at some point.
I mean, it might not be this year, but eventually.
They traded their pick for this draft, didn't they?
I'm going to check right now. Yeah, it's going to Denver.
Yeah.
But it's protected 1-14 this year.
Okay.
Next year.
Okay.
So it's not too bad.
So they'll be able to get that pick this year. So yeah, then hopefully they draft high enough. They get one of the guys coming out of college. There's definitely a bunch of big man prospects that they can look into. Obviously, we talked about Ben Simmons earlier.
They just need a prospect, really.
They need any star power. I prefer a big man for them, but any prospect would help them. So yeah, anything else to add about this team?
So some people call Myers Leonard Giant Beaver. How do you feel about that?
I don't even know. His teeth aren't even that bad.
Bieber?
Oh, I thought you said Giant Beaver. I was like, what?
Giant Beaver.
Giant Bieber. Okay. No, I also don't feel great about that. I mean, I guess I understand what they're going for, but never been not huge J Beebs fan. So like, I like Myers Leonard. Don't really like J Beebs for no reason. I'm not even gonna go on a hate parade. What?
Chris Kamen's on this team too, and there's nobody that really screams Portland as much as Chris Kaman.
I don't understand why that happened either, but apparently Chris Kamen's still around.
Yeah.
That'll be a mystery, but whatever. Anything else?
No.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. Catch us next time.